Hey everybody, welcome to the CharlieB podcast. I'm your host, CharlieB. Do you ever feel like you have so much going on and you just need to breathe? Being a wife and mother can be so overwhelming and sometimes you just need a minute. Take that minute with me, CharlieB. In this space, we'll talk about marriage, motherhood, and just being a woman. How do we manage to keep it together in the midst of everything that's going on? We're women, and that's just what we do. So listen, this is that pull up to the house and sit in your car for a minute moment. We all need those. You didn't have to, but I'm so glad you decided to spend that moment with me on the CharlieB podcast. Let's jump right in. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the CharlieB podcast. My name is Charlene, better known as CharlieB, and I am so glad that you took out the time to join me. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much, and I hope that you are here to stay. It is September. We're closing out the month. We've been talking to Dr. Marguerite Hall all month long about life insurance, the importance of having life insurance and being prepared. And tonight, Dr. Marguerite Hall is going to close us out talking about long-term care. Dr. Marguerite, say hello to the peoples.
Hello, peoples, and I'm so glad to be here with Charlie again tonight. This has been an exciting month, having the opportunity to share information and about life insurance, women and insurance. And tonight, as Charlie said, we're going to talk about long-term care insurance. And though it's not life insurance, I think it's a topic that we have very little conversation about. It's long-term care. It is advanced planning. It is thinking about the what-ifs. Many of you may not even know what qualifies as long-term care.
I don't.
Sometimes we think that it falls under medical help, and so Medicare or Medicaid will take care of it, and it doesn't. It doesn't. So, Charlie, that's what we're going to talk about tonight.
Okay.
Have you, personally, you and your family, ever thought about long-term care? What would happen if something were to happen to either of you, and you could not do two of what we call the daily activities, like dress yourself, feed yourself? You have the medical care, you have the health care.
Yes, I do.
But the cost of somebody taking care of you day in and day out.
Marguerite, to tell you the truth, I have not. I'm 52. George will be 55 in October, and we have not planned anything. And so I'm ready to listen and to learn.
And you know what? I am ready to share. I like to call it the ABCs of long-term care, which means protect your asset, don't be a burden, and maintain your choices. So when I say protect your assets, all month we've been talking about long-term care, and all month we've been talking about life insurance. And we have touched, because it could go so much deeper, but we have touched on how you to plan and prepare for retirement. So like a little squirrel, we talked about protecting our family if something should happen so that they don't lose traction financially, using an index universal life to accumulate funds. And we touched on retirement. We've touched on a little bit of everything. So let's just say you've done everything perfect.
Right.
And it's time to retire. You've got your nest egg. You got $500,000, $750,000, $1 million. You've got a fine advisor like me taking that money and helping it grow.
I like
and
it.
all you want to do is, you know what? You just want to travel with George and do life.
Yes.
You know, but sometimes life does us. So, unfortunately, something happens and your plans don't go as predicted. And you all of a sudden need to have care at home. So you can no longer care for yourself. Or suppose you have to provide care for a loved one. But let's say you could no longer care for yourself. Do you have plans for that?
No.
What would happen?
I don't know. Like if wait, let me think. What would I do? Like what's going to kick in? If something, I have long-term disability and short-term disability outside the job. I have life insurance outside the job, but nothing for long-term care. Oh, goodness. Let's go. I'm
you know
ready.
what? I applaud you because I know because of your background
Yeah.
and the knowledge. Because they say when you know better, you do better.
Yes.
You could put all those things in place, and I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
But so today, that's what we're going to talk about: long-term care services, who needs them, what they may cost, and how people, typically pay. So when I'm talking about long-term care, first of all, I just want to get rid of some myths.
Okay.
Because if I say long-term care, you automatically think it's for old people, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I'm 52 and I'm not thinking about no long-term care.
Not thinking about long-term care insurance or long-term care or somebody having to bring you your food
No.
or help you wash up. But let's be real. There are some illnesses and accidents, and they don't have age restrictions.
Oh, dear.
That's real.
Yes.
So therefore, you would need skilled nursing care in order for day-to-day living. And that's what we call long-term care. The other myth is Medicare pays for care. Medicare, once you're Medicare age, will pay up to 100 days in a skilled nursing facility for rehabilitation only. After that, Medicare doesn't pay anything. So what's 100 days? That's 3 months and 10 days.
Oh my God.
Say you have a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the rehabilitation center to learn how to walk, to feed yourself, to speak.
Right.
Then after that, Medicare stops paying for it. Both health insurances also have a limit of time for rehab.
Mm-hmm.
So even under Medicare, there are restrictions. You must have been hospitalized at least 3 days for the same diagnosis, and you must be making the progress predetermined by Medicare.
What?
Yes. So there is a rubric where you're supposed to be for those, because it's only 100 days, and they want to make sure they're being used wisely. What's the third myth? You can wait to buy insurance. You can wait to buy insurance until you need it. Much like life insurance, when you need it, you can't buy it. I want to.
Oh my goodness!
You have to buy it.
Blow my mind.
Yes, it has to be purchased when you're healthy. Long-term care insurance is medically underwritten. The sad thing about it, if I have a client that can't get life insurance, they can't get long-term care insurance. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to stick long-term care conversation in tonight. Even though long-term care month is not until November, I know that this is my last week on.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. Wow. Okay. All right. So myth number 1 was, because that is a myth. I'm going to tell you right now. It's not just for old people.
No.
We're going to get rid of that myth. It's not just for old people.
But imagine being 45 years old on your motorcycle, having a spin out on 676 and being paralyzed from the neck down.
You need long-term care.
You do, because medically, once you're deemed paralyzed, there's nothing else. You can live a very long time.
Yeah.
But you're going to need a skilled care.
Somebody's going to have to take care of you.
Yes.
And then the second myth was Medicare will pay.
No.
Well, I'm 52. I don't have Medicare in sight for quite a while, right?
You got a minute to go for that. You don't have a minute to go for that.
Goodness. And then myth number 3. I can get that when I need it.
No. On the way to the hospital or being discharged, I'm not even going to take the application. I'm going to send you some flowers and do a GoFundMe.
Wow. Listen. Get your pens and get your pads out, because she's starting early, y'all. She ain't wasting no time. Marguerite is laying down the diamonds, and this information is free tonight. you need to give Marguerite a call. I know for a fact that more than 60% of the people listening do not know anything about long-term care.
And I believe it. You know why? Because it's not a conversation we have.
Right.
And especially in the Black community, we have a history of caring for mom, or who's going to take care of mom.
Yeah.
You know, those daughters, the kids that take care of mom, or the cousin, or that person in the family that never got married and doesn't have kids, and they're always there. But let's be honest. You know, that doesn't rub well in a lot of ways. Not that we should not help each other in the families.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. I'm all about families.
Yes.
I took care of my mother
Yep.
and my husband. So that's why long-term care is so dear to me. When both of them were ill and then went into hospice, I was grateful that the job I had allowed me the time to be there, because we're going back over a decade. And at that time, I was paying $24 an hour for someone to come in and just stay with my mother, turn her, help her go to the bathroom, you know, because that's what long-term care is. That individual was not doing medicines. They were not doing anything medical. They were just filling in with my husband.
Goodness.
And that I never had the conversation before that, never even knew what it was. Had a partner who had a mother-in-law down south, and they had to drive down every other weekend to relieve the sister because the mother was bedridden. She was healthy other than she was bedridden. That is long-term care. There was nothing medical they could do for her. She just was not going to be able to walk anymore and do certain things for herself. So that long-term care, you know, it may happen because of accident, disabilities, prolonged illness, and aging. We always think aging because you're old, you can't. But when you look at, and that's another reason we need to look at, because if you look at the mortality and the longevity that people are living, I just saw the other day, woman looked fabulous. She was celebrating her 112th birthday.
Ooh, 112?
112. Well, I'm like, I'm good. I see Jesus.
Yes.
You know.
I'm going to go ahead and say no thank you on that one.
I am too.
God's will be done, but really?
All your friends are gone.
Wow.
It's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot.
You know, we always think about long-term care when we look at nursing home.
Yeah.
And you just heard me say that I took care of my mother and my husband in my home. We have a room now, we call it the prayer room, because my mother transitioned from that room and her spirit is there. And I took care of my husband in that room.
Wow.
But they were at the house. And the reason most people decide they want to be in their house, it gives them joy.
Right.
They're in familiar surroundings. They're able to see their friends. And then you have family that so when you have long-term care and it's paying for the skilled nursing care, at least they're near their things, their family.
Yeah.
And it's a mental and emotional thing that tends to improve their quality of life and the desire to live.
Right.
Rather than to be in a nursing home.
Question.
Yes.
I'm sorry. How young can you be for long-term care?
If you have a policy and it's not based on age. Say you got a policy at 45 and you needed it. The policy is a policy. So once you buy the policy, it goes into effect.
Okay.
You can turn it on once you say you cannot do 2 of the everyday activities. Then we'll talk about what they are.
Okay, so it's an actual insurance, like an insurance policy, but it's a long-term care policy, right. And then you pay into it until you need you, just like car insurance. You hope you never need it, but you have it just in case.
Absolutely. And we're a little bit later. I'm going to share the type of policies, because you just said something and I'm going to put a pin in it about paying into it if you need it. So we're going to come back to that.
Okay.
But for clarity, long-term care insurance. It is an insurance policy.
Okay.
Underwritten, medically underwritten. Okay? It's medically underwritten. Yes. So that is why you want to be healthy when you apply for it.
Okay.
It is easier to get a life insurance policy than it is a long-term care policy. I'm going to tell you why. So say I take out a long-term care policy, and I say my policy is set up to pay based on the cost of facility care or even
Mm-hmm.
home care or assisted living. I say I have a policy that's $5,000 a month. So that's allotted, walking it out. I mean, you can get policies where you just pour what you need. Policies can be written so many different ways, and there are a few companies still in the country that do it. But let's just say this one is set up $5,000 a month. The doctor said, well, yes, she can't walk, so she needs somebody there, and she's going to, I passed the little quick test. So with that being said, that money is designed to help me stay in my home. And suppose Charlene says, well, I can come and stay with Mom Reed. Some policies allow the individual to be trained so that they're qualified to care for others.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes, yes. So the age
Who
has nothing
knew?
to do with it. It's the need. It would be the need. The cost of long-term care increases obviously as you get older, because there is a greater risk of you having to use it sooner. You could take out a policy this month, and something could happen, maybe a car accident. You wouldn't have to wait to a certain age to use it. You have the circumstances to use it.
So can my 18-year-old daughter get a long-term care policy?
I'm sure she could, but the feasibility of it, I would look at for her for more like you would look at the feasibility of it, and would she even qualify? If she would qualify, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know a young lady who has MS. I went to school with her, and her parents now take care of her, and her parents are elderly.
Yeah.
And she needs long-term care. And I think about her often. I think about her because I have a daughter with lupus, So you just never know how the tables will turn, right? And then I work with someone with MS, and he was out for like a month because one morning he woke up and couldn't walk. So it's like you never know. Now he's back, thank the Lord. But these autoimmune diseases don't give you much warning when they decide to do what they do.
And because they don't give you much warning, remember I said it's medically underwritten, it could be easily denied depending on episodes.
Oh.
So it may, and I don't know, it could, because it may ask, when was the last episode?
Mm-hmm.
What medication?
Right.
So in that case, that is a thought process and a conversation you might want to have,
right?
Especially if she's been episode free for a length of time,
right?
And depending on how it can be set up, because you can set up a long-term care policy in several ways.
Okay.
It can be funded in several ways.
Okay, but right now for me, while I'm healthy, I'm 52. My husband is 54, and he's healthy. It's best for us to get now. What? I guess it's. I'm gonna just say you said $5,000 a month, and then we pay on that for however long. Does it ever stop? You ever stop paying on it, or you just continue to pay?
You would continue according to your contract.
Okay.
Like I said, there are different ways to put
Got it.
Up.
Okay.
To set it up to go forward. I tend, depending on your age when you come into it, I really like to set up policies, whether they're life insurance policies, long-term care, that have an end date.
Mm-hmm.
Fund it and have it there.
Right. That's what. Exactly. Okay.
And they're hybrid policies, but let's. I just want to revisit just again who needs long-term care services, because you made a good point. And we obviously think of older people needing it, and just that's real. So as you get older, you may need some form of assistance.
Mm-hmm.
But accidents and injuries
mean
young people that need long-term care services as well.
Yeah.
But you're right. We automatically think long-term. In fact, the advertisements, you've never seen someone without gray hair doing a long-term care policy. Not at all.
Right.
I want to make sure I have my years right. Yeah, that one's old. I'm looking for the cost because we don't really take. Oh, here's one for 2023. Is this the one? Yes. In 2023, the average cost of long-term care in upstate New York, which is more expensive, averaged about $257 a day, which comes out to be $121,000 a month. And
$257 a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 257, and that's upstate. Downstate, it was $333 per day. Yes. And if you go online, and it's very simple to find, you can go online and go to long-term care, and then the cost for your particular state. And planning estate planning, and helping set up estate planning, and that includes when we do long-term planning for folks. That includes, when you retire.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, I said earlier about protect your assets.
Yes.
So I want everybody to understand, because someone might say, "Okay, Dr. Hall, I get about long-term care and what it does. What does it have to do with my assets?" So let's go. So okay, let's look at this.
Pull over. Let's talk.
I said Charlene and George have done everything right. They got that money, dang it. But we didn't stay there long enough. I just want to revisit. If Charlene starts to need skilled nursing care to come in, and George still has to work, and they didn't set anything aside, the money they set aside retirement is now very vulnerable, because those fees have to be paid. That's why we say protect your assets. Without a long-term care policy, the money has to come from somewhere.
Right.
Even if they have an IUL and it has cash accumulation, they most likely have marked that cash accumulation as part of the diversified portfolio to draw on it upon retirement. But now they need to head it. Now there are some IULs that you can structure to help fund long-term care, and that's another way to pay for it. And the reason being, while we're there, the reason someone would, and we call that hybrid, the reason someone would do that, and Charlene touched on it earlier, once you buy a policy, the original policies, once you purchased a policy, you paid on it, and oops, you were healthy all your life and never used it, and that was it. However, and so a lot of companies that when I first came into the business, and then all there were what I call pure, P-U-R-E, or the original long-term care policies. A lot of them are no longer doing it because of the cost as well. So now you have what we call the hybrid, and the hybrid can be an index, a part of an index universal life where you have a rider written in for so much money, and if you don't use it, then it's part of your it's part of your estate, or goes to your beneficiary when you pass. So funding it can also self-fund, which means that you use a combination of income, savings, and investment, and to pay for long-term care. The problem with that for me is, where's that dollar sign? Most injuries and illnesses don't come with a dollar sign. So that goes back to, if you're self-paying, what happens when the self-pay runs out?
That's so interesting. And you said so much about one thing you said about estate planning, and then you said protect your assets. So when I noticed that, it happened to my aunt who passed years ago. She was an older woman. She had a house and she lived by herself for many, many years. I don't believe that my aunt was ever married. Just my great aunt. She was never married. She didn't have any children. So when she got dementia, my aunt, who was her power of attorney, they were like asking all these questions. They wanted to know about the house that she owned, how much insurance does she have. Like, they wanted all this information because before she went into a nursing home, they were going to take all of her assets to pay for the nursing home.
Okay.
And then, I'm sorry, just to bring it up a little bit to my mom, even when my mom went on hospice, my dad, like you said in the last episode, when my dad passed, my mom still received pension checks from my dad.
Okay.
So when she went on hospice, they wanted all the beeswax, like how many insurance policies does she have, how much she's getting from pensions, and we like, first of all, we the ones taking care of her. Why you need to know all that? So it kind of sounds like we're protecting that if something happens to Charlene, George don't have to sell the house and move into an apartment down the street, or we'll lose everything.
Right. Because what happens, Medicaid, MEDICAID, kicks in. It's the biggest. It is the biggest participant of long-term care, and it's the payer of last resort. So, if you're spending down, Medicare requires you to spend down. That's what you just talked about.
Okay.
That's a spend down to a certain level, assets and income. So, what you just said, and you perfectly described the forfeiting of savings and income before they would even become eligible to receive Medicaid.
Wow.
Yes. A lot of times you have to exhaust a significant amount of your resources before Medicaid will help you pay. And that's exactly why they ask. You have to. It has to be less than $2,000 per month. And okay, so I did a long-term care presentation, and this is how I said it. Baby boomers have been marked as being one of the largest population.
Mm-hmm.
And, they hit that retirement age, and we're the ones that have recreated ourselves like 114 times because we are that, I call it that bridge.
Right.
However, we're also in a generation where we're living longer. So now you have a pie, and the pie is called Medicaid, and then the more you slice it, the thinner the pieces get.
Oh.
It's funded by the federal government, so the more you slice it, the thinner the pieces get. So what normally happens if an individual goes, then their Social Security check goes to Medicaid to help offset that cost. They do not run and make a profit. What am I saying? That's the C. You don't have a choice. You lose your choices.
You're so wise. The way you just broke that down. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You lose your choices when it gets to this because
you didn't protect your assets.
Yes, you didn't. You didn't protect them, and nor did you set it up so that you wouldn't be a burden.
A burden. Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So if you're not thinking about long-term care, you're absolutely right. And all the things that you have in place for, I'm going to Europe, I'm going to Africa, we're going to sell a house, we're going to go to Florida, we're going to buy a summer house there, and all that. Now you got to take care of care.
Yeah.
So it goes from, we're going to sell the house and downsize to a one-bedroom apartment with a den, but we need to be somewhere where we can have, so you're still thinking, but you still have medical costs coming in. And they're not so much, and they're actually care costs because you have Medicare, and hopefully you have been properly structured by professionals such as myself or setting up Medicare. All those things work together as you transition into retirement. But as far as long-term care, like we said, it doesn't have an age restriction. It really doesn't. When I first came into the business and I was taking classes for long-term care, there was a conversation about a 38-year-old young man, and I always use the motorcycle thing because this is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
He was very affluent, had a large house and whatever, and he was single. he wound up being a paraplegic.
Oh.
So the care.
Mm.
So the interesting thing, they said he went from this like 12 bedroom, all this humongous house, to having just a little house in a less desirable part of town, an apartment.
Wow.
Because it went for care. And see, we don't have a beginning and end on those things.
No.
There is no beginning and end. And just like anything else, a long-term care policy can be designed that maybe you say, well, I can't afford for $5,000 a month, but I know that I have an income of $1,500. I'll make up the difference, because I'd rather spend that $1,500 and what I get for long-term care and stay in my house.
Right.
And it is cheaper for most cases to stay in your house. Professional home health aid, if they were there around the clock, is $3,300 a month. Assisted living facility is $3,200, and a nursing home, a semi-private room, is $6,300 a month.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. They sound like that 1 month sounds like a nice vacation.
Yeah, that's like crazy.
Yeah. And like I said, 10 years ago, home health care was $24 an hour, and we got a discount on it.
Yeah.
Because we knew who the person was. We knew who the individual was. She was doing us a favor, and we trusted her. You wanted somebody to trust. So now we know that Medicare will not cover it. It's beyond that 100 days. Medicaid is the last resort payer. You understand, and you did it so well, Charlene. You gave a perfect life example of spend down, and that's what it's called.
Right.
And a lot of times, individuals will put their assets in the names of their children, but there is what they call a look back period. I think it's 5 years look back. So, mom gets sick, and she's in the ambulance, and y'all scrambling around to get the lawyer to change the paperwork. It won't happen.
Right.
It won't matter.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There are people that use Medicaid as their long-term care. But like I said, the slices in the pie are getting very thin.
Yeah.
And these are government-run facilities.
Okay, I have a question. When you say $5,000 a month, that's the policy. That's not what somebody's going to be paying a month.
No.
I wanted to make that clear.
That is the benefit of the policy. Depending on your age, you could be paying $149 a month, depending on your age and your health. These policies are medically underwritten, so your health is going to be very important. And again, just like a life insurance policy, it's based on your age and your health. And
it's also probably based on what medication you're taking every day.
That has
and
to
how
do with
your
health.
weight.
Right.
Wow, yeah. All those things.
Weight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you're under tall, I'll let that sink in. If you're under tall, yes, that has everything to do with it. More of a reason to try to be the best possible condition that you can be.
That's such good information, Marguerite.
And this has nothing to do with anything but just thought. When you go to the doctor, and perhaps a lot of times the doctor may prescribe something, and automatically you're not going to take it, please don't let him put the prescription. Tell him don't write it, because once he writes it, it goes in your medical record. And if it goes in your medical record, when it goes to underwriters, then if you're taking the policy, then we have to explain why it's in there. Even if you're not taking it, then it opens up a question on why.
Oh my goodness, Marguerite, that's so good. They just wrote something for my husband, and he's like, I'm not taking that. You can write it if you want. I'm not taking it. And he didn't take it. But it's still in there. And I never thought about that.
Right. And it's in there. So, okay. So let's follow that train of thought. And I know we're getting a little bit off long-term care. But let's follow that train of thought. I say I'm not taking it. But a medical professional has said that there is something going in my body that they deem that is necessary. So whether I'm taking it or not, now the insurance company is like, we need to know what that is. Are there more tests? And at this time, taking applications is so sophisticated that I call them live applications when I'm on my computer. So if Charlene says, "Oh no, I don't have high blood pressure," and it'll come back and say, "Sources say that she is on medication for high blood pressure.
Ooh.
Is this true?"
Ooh.
It opens up just like that. That's just that, as we like to say, that was for free.
Blow my mind.
So
I am
what I will
spun.
say at the end of the day, when you sit in front, if you're sitting in front of a financial representative and you're doing any kind of life insurance, health insurance is, of course, long-term care comes under that, disability under that, be completely honest.
Yeah.
Be completely honest before they even turn on the computer, and let them know what's going on.
That's good to know.
Time is important. Anything, most applications said within the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So if it's 11 years, they're not asking you for that information. Okay?
Thank you so much for that. Man.
No problem.
What else you got?
Okay, so how are you going to pay for it? You can pay for it. We already said that some Medicaid wasn't the top of the list. It's the last resort. Your savings, but since you don't have a end date, so long-term care would more than likely be, having a long-term care policy would more than likely be the way that you want to go. Long-term care is just the opposite of Medicaid, because long-term care does what? It protects those assets. And as I said earlier, they're medically underwritten, meaning that you have to qualify by age and health. So, those are some of the things you need to look at. Now, if I sit down with Charlene and George, and by the way, as a couple, there's a discount in most companies when they are on the same policy. And sometimes they have the opportunity to share time. What's shared time? Oh, I'm glad you asked. So again, we've already made Charlene ill. So now Charlene's going into her 5th year of being ill, and she starts drill down on her side of the policy. George can lend her, or not lend, but she can use some of George's time on the policy.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So there is a wait period. It's much like if you have an automobile policy and you have to pay your deductible.
Yeah.
We call it the elimination period.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's the time between when the illnesses or injury occurs and when you actually receive benefit. Now, that's like a waiting period, and you get to determine that when you're writing it. You can have a 90-day period, or what we call elimination period.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? That means you need to have monies to cover your care for those 90 days until you start collecting benefits. You say, wow, well, suppose I don't have enough. Then you might want to think of doing a 60-day or a 30-day. But the shorter the elimination period, it also
premium. Right.
The premium.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, you asked me what that $5,000 was, and that is your benefit amount per month. Okay? Sometimes it's broken down per day. Everybody's not in on long-term care for an indefinite time. Think about it. I had a boot on. So say I had a boot on at the same time that my hip went out. I can't take care of myself. But I know in 3 months, I'm going to be fine. So I would use that block of time. And in some policies, and I say in some policies, because every company brings their own provisions and riders, and they have their little, their little perks. But there are some companies where if it's within a certain amount of time, and I'll use a year, don't commit to it, but let's say it's under a year. So now I've had the boot and the hips out, so I can't move.
Mm-hmm.
I need someone to come in. So that we're going to say that's 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
Once that's up, then the money stops. I'm okay. My policy, I resume paying it because you don't pay it while you're using it.
Wait. Why am I just click? Why is this just clicking? Are you saying that you can use it for a temporary, you can use long-term care for a temporary period?
You could use it for a temporary period. You could have surgery. Suppose you have a stroke and you can't move. Think about it. And but I'm going to use it longer than 3 months, because if I have a 90-day elimination period, so let's say it's for 9 months.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you dwindled down the $5,000 and you need it again in 5 years, will it be less?
Now, I'm ready to tell you what will happen on some policies.
I'm getting.
So now I'm back. I don't need that extra help. I'm starting to pay my policy again. On some policies, you get that time back. I call it like the snake growing its tail back.
Stop
That's some
it.
policies. So you're whole again. So if your policy was for 3 years, it's still for 3 years.
Wow.
It depends on how the company is writing it. And again, there's so many ways to fund it and to write it. It is so many ways to fund it. I mentioned earlier, I talked about a look back period, and that's the time of transfer, the time, length of time before enrolling in a health plan, that any transfer of assets and resources will be looked at. So we talked about Medicaid and how that drills down on your assets.
Yeah.
And the reason they have a look down period is so that you don't try to get rid of those assets to be eligible for Medicaid.
Like sell the house. Yeah, because
Take the assets rather than, and then, yeah. So that's why they have the look down period. So can you imagine how ugly that is if someone has moved forward, put the house in your name, you sell it, and then they transition? Because normally this happens after the transition. They would go after you for the house because it wasn't done properly. It wasn't done properly. Yeah.
You teaching and schooling tonight.
I know I'm giving you a lot. What else? Do you have any?
Wow, this is such good information. Dr. Marguerite Hall has, wow, you've really opened my eyes to a few things. And I'm really surprised that I have my health license, but I don't ever remember having this kind of discussion about long-term care.
Well, not everybody gets into it. At one of my former FMOs, when I first came in the business, because I came from a situation of taking care of my mother and my husband, I was very interested in long-term care.
Okay.
So I would do it with some of the more mature producers.
Right.
They just didn't want to do it, and they hadn't bothered to learn it. And you do have to test for it every 2 years.
Okay.
It's a standalone test to be qualified to do it.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So, George and I get a long-term care plan. I get sick. George has to take care of me. Do I still need the plan? Do I still need the policy to... Can I still... What am I trying to say? Can I still have the policy pay me because if George is taking care of me? Or does it have to be a nurse taking care of me?
Does not have to be a nurse, but he would have to be considered qualified. And you would have to be considered, like I said, unable to perform at least 2 of the activities of daily living. Going to the bathroom, feeding yourself, washing yourself. Those type of things. The things that we take for granted. Walking.
Right.
Those type of things. And if George had to go to work, he could, if he could take care of you and be qualified as what they call a skilled aid.
Yeah.
If that policy allowed it, or he could use partial. And you said, well, I don't need the whole $5,000. I just need it for that. And it would be wise just to bank it, especially if it's the 2 of you, because you don't know what's coming down the road. What
happens when the $5,000 runs out? That's just it?
Well, the way it's set up, they're saying if you're using the $5,000 hard, more than likely you're in a nursing home, and they're saying that people normally do not live beyond 2 to 3 years in a nursing home. Most policies I write are for 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So $5,000, remember those numbers I just gave you, that would be in a nursing home. But if you're at home, then more than likely you would not need that much per month.
Right. Okay.
So that would almost
got it. I got it.
Or expand, or like I said, for a short period of time, a year or less. Then and if you had a policy where it went back, then it will extend the length of the policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Listen.
You know, and you said something else. When we talk about Alzheimer's,
Mm-hmm.
that would trigger automatic. If you have a long-term care policy, it triggers automatically the long-term care policy
Okay.
because the extra care. And um, there have been so many upgrades. There are some policies that just have a rider for that because it's recognized the type of care that is needed.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want our loved one just walking off, or provisions for them to be able to go to a daycare, an adult daycare.
Yeah.
And it will pay for adult daycare as well because someone is caring, even though they're staying at home and going back and forth. But that can be covered as well, especially when you talk about Alzheimer's.
Right. And they can live a long time, too.
Absolutely. So, yes, it is. When I say long-term care, there may be some that say, I remember my great-great-great aunt had long-term care and they had to get the individual from another state. Yes, some of the long-term care policies that were previously written, they weren't, they were not patient. They did not advocate for the patient. And they did just what they said, but it would be like, it'd be as if you needed long-term care. You called in, we filed a claim, and then I would say, well, here's your list of professionals, and they were in Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is the likelihood someone wanting to come up here and
Right.
watch you every day, and there's highly unlikely you want them to stay in your house.
Right. Oh, wow. Marguerite.
Yeah.
This is so good. I mean, it worked out for my mom, but I wish I had known half of this when my mom was sick. Like I said, it all worked out. There's 7 of us, so
Yeah. And that's
we
a
took
blessing.
turns, and my mom was very well taken care of. My sister's a nurse, and I have 2 sisters that are in that field.
Right.
I was the runner. Go get this and go get that. Okay, yes, so we'll do.
Yeah. Well,
But everybody doesn't have that, you know?
Everybody doesn't have that. I have one of my clients is she's a professional, she's a nurse, and she's not married and she doesn't have any kids. So when one of the things that we did for her was she has a huge insurance policy, but it's designed either she can draw it for retirement or long-term care, whatever she needs. And that's just some of the flexibility you have when you properly fund Index Universal Life. If you go in and you sit with a professional and you say, I want this for college, I want this for retirement to assist in my retirement, or I want it for long-term care. I mean, and it also, and that's another whole week, the tax and retirement using Index Universal Life, because it's tax-free when you take the money out of the Index Universal
Because it's
Life.
an insurance policy.
Because it's an insurance policy. This is not considered a savings or interest-bearing vehicle, and its accumulation inside of an insurance policy.
But so long-term care is tax-free too, because it's insurance.
It tax qualifies in some states.
Okay.
And partnerships as well. On your when I did my taxes, it actually has a line asking about long-term care.
Wow.
Yeah.
Come through.
Okay. So real quick. So again, when you have long-term care at home, what it does, it helps you with the household tasks. It helps with personal tasks, washing clothes, putting clothes away because you couldn't do it. You get the services of visiting nurse or home health aide. You may need special equipment and home modifications. You know, and so think about it. Having to have a ramp bill, your long-term care will pay for that.
Wow.
Pay for that.
Awesome.
One thing I do want folks to just think about this, because a lot of people may get off and say, well, you know, I'm going to do Medicaid. Think about the consequences of Medicaid. So, you know, because it's doesn't matter. Nobody knows what the future looks like. So no matter how old you are, you might need some form of assistance. And accidents and injuries happen to young people as well, and they lead long-term services as well.
Oh, Marguerite Hall, you did it again.
Well, great. I'm glad to know. I can do it.
You are amazing, like just a wealth of information. Listen, I appreciate you so much. This has been an incredible month. A wealth of information, talking about financial planning. I loved last week's episode about women's relationship with money.
After I did it, I said, I can do that again with women and money. And
that was so good.
I'm accessible, of course, at 609-636-5431 or M as in Marguerite, K as in kind, ENNEY, Hall, HALL @gmail.com. mkennyhall@gmail.com. If you have further questions, you want a complimentary 45-minute session, you don't even know what you need. My business is based on education. My pop used to say, you can't blame them if you don't train them.
Yep.
So, and the saying is, you do better when you know better.
Yes.
And I think for the sake of you, your family, future, and community, we have to know better. We've got to start somewhere. And I feel like insurance is a great place to start because it allows you an opportunity to build a legacy in your home and in your community. It allows you to continue to love and finish plans that you are no longer physically there to do so. And a GoFundMe is not an option.
Nope.
It is not an option. So again, I would love to hear from anyone who's been in the audience, have questions, reach out either to myself or to CharlieB. Because this is important.
Yes,
and
it is.
It's not something you can
life-changing.
say later.
Nope.
Because life insurance, long-term care, all of it is based on your age and your health. And the last time I checked, none of us are Benjamin Buttons and we're not aging backwards. And our health is only as good as today.
That's right. As good as this moment. Thank you so much. I want to take out the time to say thank you again for agreeing to come on for the month of September and to encourage and to drop all this knowledge on my listeners. Reach out to Dr. Marguerite Hall. As you can see, she knows her stuff, y'all. She knows her stuff. If you need insurance, if you need just advice, and if you need to talk to somebody about estate planning, it's the time that we start thinking about leaving a legacy for our children's children. Talk to Marguerite. Romar Financial. The lady knows her stuff. All right. So again, this has been the wonderful September. For the month of October, we're going to be talking about something totally different. I have a great surprise lined up for everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Join me next time right here on the CharlieB podcast. CharlieB out.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you so much, Marguerite.
You're so welcome.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the show. You can also like my page on Facebook at the CharlieB Podcast. Now, before you get out of the car and go to whatever is next, take a deep breath and remember, this is what you were created for. God gave you a different kind of strength, and whatever it is, you've got this. So again, thanks for tuning in. Really, you didn't have to, but I'm so glad that you did. Join me next time right here on the CharlieB Podcast.